a criminal offense.
The chair recognizes Mr. Phelan to explain the bill.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Tinderholt, for what purpose?
will the gentleman yield for questions?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
I will yield for questions.
The
Sir.
gentleman yields.
Thank you. Representative Phelan, this bill is numbered House Bill 366, that's correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And I'm seeing it was filed on February 27th of 2025. Is that also correct?
That sounds correct. Yes, sir.
House Bill 365 in front of it and 367 behind it were filed on November 12th of 2004. Were you Speaker of the House on November 12th of 2024?
I sure was, sir.
Why did you save bill number 366 for this bill that you filed 4 months later?
Well, I reserved 366 for a piece of legislation. It just happened to be this piece of legislation.
Did you consider doing any other bills in the spot for 366?
I can't recall. I had so many bills in Ledge Council that this was one of the first ones that was ready. Yes, sir.
I'm looking at the race for House District 21, and apparently the election night returns had you winning by the runoff by 366 votes. Is there any correlation between the House bill number of 366 and winning by 366 votes?
There might be. That's a heck of a correlation you made there. But I will say the official vote was 386.
Okay. And so why did you choose this bill about political speech after your margin of victory in the primary?
I actually have about 5 bills dealing with ethics reform and the Ethics Commission and disclosures. I felt it was time that the legislature address those. They're not fun topics, and it's something that is near and dear to my heart. The integrity of elections. This bill is not about me, Mr. Tinderholt. This bill is not about you. This bill is not about anybody on the House floor. This bill and other bills I hope to bring to the House floor. I have 2 tomorrow that I'm sure you're going to love as well. It's about the integrity of our elections and what the voters see on whether it's media or mail, and we know that AI. This would be probably the 5th bill that we vote off on the House floor dealing with AI. So it's obviously something that is infiltrating different aspects of our lives.
Did you consider whether using your margin of victory as the bill number might make the bill look like a personal vendetta versus a true mission to try to change the election process?
A personal vendetta against whom, sir?
I don't know.
I know you asked the questions, but it was a number that I appreciate my voters sending me back on.
Members, reminder not to impugn the motives of the member.
Yeah.
Would you agree that laws targeting...
It's simply a bill number.
Would you agree that laws targeting speech should be written objectively and not emotionally?
Sir, there's not a bill I've ever had on this House floor that I'm emotional about.
I just find it ironic that it's 366, and that was the first number that came out for the election numbers. I understand they changed, but I just find it very ironic. Thank you.
There's nothing ironic about it.
Mr. Speaker,
Ms. Luther, for what purpose?
does the gentleman yield for questions?
Will the gentleman yield for
I
questions?
certainly yield for questions.
The
Yes,
gentleman
ma'am.
yields.
Thank you. And so this bill is a Class A misdemeanor.
That is correct.
So what are the consequences for this? Could you explain that to me?
Well, you would have to, of course, it would go to the district attorney's office, and a Class A misdemeanor is, let me see if I have the actual penalties in front of me.
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's up to a year in jail. Yes, ma'am.
So, up to a year in jail.
Correct.
I've been to jail for 3 days for working. Do you think that that's a fair punishment for someone creating an image or a meme?
Well, it's a very serious offense.
Up to a year in jail, sir.
Well, we could do a civil fine, correct? And as of right now, well, going into session, there's 750 cases totaling $3.6 million in uncollected fines. So fining someone $500 in a campaign that could be $5 million, $10 million, correct? A $500 fine is a cost of doing business in an election. But if someone were to commit an offense of this nature, it would certainly get their attention
So
and
you're
hopefully
saying
prevent them from doing it.
You think a year in jail for making a cartoon that matches the offense?
It will be probation. You and I both know that. This
No,
will
I
result in
don't.
probation.
It literally says in your because I personally have dealt with judges who take a personal vendetta against you and make you an example. I have actually lived that my whole life for working. I got thrown in jail. So I'm asking you, if someone creates a cartoon, they could go to jail for a year. That's what you're saying in your bill.
Now, what I'm saying is, and by the way, your circumstances and your confinement has nothing to do with this piece of legislation.
No, I'm talking about if the punishment matches the offense. I can talk about that all day long, sir.
Well, and that's your prerogative. This is a deterrent in using fake or altered media to drastically change the outcome of an election. And I think that's a serious offense, and it should be taken serious. I'm not taking this lightly at all.
So you don't think there's been political satire it's been a tradition in America for a long time.
Absolutely.
And if someone's
and it will
not,
continue. It will continue.
Right. So now that you have this bill, you're expecting that to completely stop.
No.
And then if you're in an
No.
area like Dallas,
No.
they'll say, we're going to put you in jail for, we have J6ers that are in jail for doing nothing.
This has nothing to do with January 6th. I'm sure
No,
you would...
I am comparing the offense to the punishment.
Okay, that's fine. This bill applies to individuals whose political speech is currently being regulated by the state of Texas, either through statute or through rule of the Texas Ethics Commission. The persons, line 10 through 18, are already required to have disclosures. They have to have political ad paid for by. That's the same universe that is currently being regulated, that is being regulated in this bill. No new individual, no new person is being brought in to HB 366. I know that's the narrative out there on Twitter or social media. It is not accurate. This is the same universe that is being regulated currently that will be regulated under 366. All you have to do is disclose that you are lying to the public with your media. That video's been altered. It did not occur in reality. And that's all you have to do is disclose it, just like you disclose political ad paid for by.
So the first night that I was in jail, everyone looking at me, they said, why are you here? And I said, I was working. And can you imagine someone going to jail for a year and they say, what are you in here for? And they say, I drew a cartoon.
Well, it wouldn't apply to them unless they are currently also not following the law.
I will not be voting for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Schatzline, for what purpose?
would the gentleman yield for some questions?
The gentleman yield for questions.
Of course I will.
Gentleman yields.
Representative, are you familiar with strict scrutiny?
I can't hear you. Say that again.
Are you familiar with strict scrutiny?
You can enlighten me.
It's the standard by which courts review government regulations on speech. It requires the government to have a compelling interest and for the bill to be narrowly tailored. What is the compelling interest here?
Again, we have been regulating political advertising since before I was born. This has been going on for decades. This is nothing different than we currently do with political advertising. You as a candidate office holder have to put political ad paid for by when you enter this political advertising arena, and all this does is ask you or tells you to add in a disclosure that you are using altered media.
So if a law burdens more speech than necessary, would you agree that it is unconstitutional?
Absolutely. This is regulated speech that we've been doing for decades. It is no different.
Did you consult with a constitutional lawyer before drafting this bill?
I actually did consult with several attorneys. Yes, sir.
Were you aware that courts have consistently struck down vague or overly broad speech regulations?
I don't think they applied to this bill, sir.
I want to reiterate another question that's been asked because I think it's important. So is it your goal to put someone in jail for political speech because that's what this bill would do?
It is my goal to prevent someone from impacting or altering an election by using fake media that never occurred in reality, be it AI or deep fakes. And we saw the chilling effect it had this past cycle. We see it every day, whether it's President Trump or former President Biden, where their voice and their likeness is, you cannot distinguish between reality and this this new technology. You can't tell the difference.
So we know that this law is going to be abused to put people in jail for political speech. Is it your intent to limit grassroots organizations from criticizing their elected officials?
This does not apply to grassroots organizations, sir. Again, 1, 2, and 3, Section 255.0015, 1, 2, and 3. You have to satisfy those requirements to be in this bill. And if you are 1, 2, or 3 in this bill, you're already required to put political ad paid for by. You already have regulations on your political advertising speech.
Representative,
That is the current law as we
this is
sit here
going to
today.
end up with people in jail for political
will
speech.
not.
I am going to oppose, and I hope
It will
everyone else
not.
does too.
Thank you, but it will not.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Olcott, for what purpose?
does the gentleman yield for a question?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Absolutely.
The gentleman
Thank you.
yields.
Is it true, Representative Phelan, that when you laid this bill out in committee, that initially Texas Public Policy Foundation supported your bill?
That is my understanding, yes, sir.
Is it true that they later recanted that bill and retracted it?
To my knowledge, they were in my office this week supporting the bill, sir. That is my knowledge.
That's interesting, because I was told this was the statement that I had been informed that they read after coming out in support. They recanted it and said, while we appreciate the efforts of Senate Bill 893 and House Bill 366 to ensure the integrity of our elections, Texas Public Policy Foundation's testimony did not adequately reflect the concerns we have with the current language or go far enough in specifying the precise conditions under which we would ultimately support the bills. We look forward to working with the bill authors and committee members to make the necessary changes that would accomplish the goal of protecting voters and the integrity of our elections. Have you made the changes that they recommended?
Were they speaking to the file version or the committee substitute?
That was a statement they actually just issued. I believe that was a public statement.
Well, you say that. I don't know if you're accurate or not, but
Okay. You're not aware of that statement then?
I'm not
sir?
aware of that statement, but I do know after that hearing, the committee substitute addressed the concerns brought up in committee.
But you have you discussed any of these changes with Texas Public Policy Foundation, the ones that they brought up?
Sir, I have not had any conversations with Texas Public Policy Foundation this session, period. When they supported the bill, it was when they walked in and testified in favor of the bill. I did not talk to him prior to filing the bill, and I have not talked to him since the committee substitute's been laid out and voted out of committee.
But you're going on record here saying that Texas Public Policy Foundation currently supports your bill.
I don't know, sir. I don't know. You say they don't. I can tell you no one testified against the bill, and no one's come to my office opposing the bill since the committee substitute's been voted out. Zero, not one person.
Okay. Well, apparently they have changed their mind, and they were looking to work with you, but apparently you didn't want to. But yeah, I'll be voting against the bill. Thank you, sir.
That statement is your statement. I will call Texas Public Policy Foundation when we get off the floor, though.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Money, for what
will the
purpose?
gentleman yield for a few questions?
Will the gentleman yield
Sure.
for questions?
Representative Phelan, can you identify some of the specific types of political advertising that you think would be a crime under this bill?
Well, again, if you knowingly, with the intent to publish through broadcast political advertising, including image and audio recording or video recording of an office holder or candidate's appearance, speech, or conduct that did not occur in reality.
Okay, so last election cycle, you and various PACs directed by you spent quite a bit of money in Republican primary elections that published, distributed, and broadcasted political advertising. Is that correct?
I donated money to individuals. I
And-
was not involved in the creation of media or the mail or the radio and TV. I did not get involved in that, no, sir.
But
No more than when you give a donation to a candidate, you get involved.
Sure. And the kinds of political advertisements that we're told are concerning are maybe a picture that didn't happen in reality, such as I think a famous picture is of you hugging Nancy Pelosi, and you've never hugged Nancy Pelosi. Is that correct?
I've never been in the same zip code as Nancy Pelosi.
Me neither, and I don't think you would hug her, but there was a picture of you hugging her that would violate this rule. Is that correct?
It would certainly require disclosure that image did not occur in reality. That's it. That's all it would take.
And if someone published that picture without publishing that disclosure, they and any broadcast company, social media site that broadcasted that would be subject to both civil and criminal penalties. Is that correct?
No, sir. I don't think you've read the bill, because if you go to page 2, it certainly carves out all those individuals who would have been liable for publishing any type of media.
Okay, I'll move on then. So last cycle, if there's a PAC that you donated heavily to that sent a political mailer to my district showing a picture of me next to Xi Jinping with the Chinese flag superimposed on farmland, falsely claiming that I helped to sell farmland to the Chinese Communist Party, that would be a crime under this bill, correct?
Are you sure you're not talking about my election where that piece of mail was sent?
Hey, I think maybe there's probably more of us than just one that got that, but that would be a crime.
I definitely got that one. Yes,
Okay.
sir. But you're correct. That would fall under this disclosure that I did not meet that individual. I never shook his hand, and a disclosure saying this did not occur in reality would have to be included on that piece of mail, just like in my race and in your race. This is a equal opportunity disclosure bill here, sir.
Do you think voters in House District 21 believe that you actually did hug Nancy Pelosi?
You know, that's a great question. Yes. The same reason they came up to me and said, you know what, I don't think Donald Trump endorsed your opponent. That was some deep fake AI stuff. I was not quick to correct them and tell them, no, actually, he did endorse my opponent, but they did not believe it was real because there's so much out there that's not real. So when things occur that are actually accurate, they also don't believe it. And that's the point of the bill, sir. Mr. Money, it's not about you and it's not about your election. And I'm sorry you had some mail you didn't like. I got mail I didn't like. This is about what your voters believe and what my voters believe. It's not about us. And you and I will just be a face on a composite in the basement one day, and we won't be remembered. But if we don't protect our elections, and if we don't do something about the integrity that our voters see on a daily basis, all this is not worth it. Because then you know what? Anybody could be up here. An image, a video of anybody could go run for election. You know what? I'm not the best looking man, right? I got a big forehead. I'd love for my forehead to be a little bit smaller, but that wouldn't be reality. I'd like to be 6'2". That wouldn't be reality, right? So let the voters know exactly what they're getting every time they go to the ballot box. So why anyone would want to operate in the shadows is beyond me.
I don't want to operate in the shadows.
Well, good. Vote for 366 and you won't be operating in the shadows. Put a disclosure on any mail piece you put out there that says, this is fake. I'm lying to you, voter.
But if someone makes your forehead...
Members, please don't talk over each other.
Let him finish his comment about my forehead, please.
No, I'm saying I don't want anybody to make fun of my appearance either. You've got a nicer head of hair than I've got. But if someone makes your forehead larger than it should be, I don't think that they should be subject to jail time for that. This is an overreach. Nobody likes bad political advertisement. You don't, and I don't, and I get that. But that's part of what we have to live with. And when people overreach and they say that we've sold land to the Chinese Communist Party, they say we're affiliated with neo-Nazis and ridiculous comments like that, then that is what, then we answer for it, and truth covers truth, and we move on.
This won't stop lies. People will lie about me, they're going to lie about you, they're going to lie about anybody who runs for office, whether it's local, state, federal, there always will be lies. The problem is we're getting to a point in time, again, this is the 5th bill we've heard on the House floor dealing with AI and new technology. We have to get ahead of it. We're always playing catch up to technology. When I first got elected, it was just the World Wide Web. It was Facebook. Now this is AI, right? On Monday, Senator Ted Cruz passed the Take It Down Act, 409 to 2. The federal government
That's
is
a
finally doing
different
something.
different bill. Let's keep it about
It's
your
still
bill.
about AI, though. It's
Yeah.
still about AI
But
infiltrating our
we're
lives
talking
on a
about
daily
political
basis.
memes, and I appreciate it. And I don't like lies in political advertising as well. But this bill goes too far, and I'll vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Speaker, may I make a motion to extend the time?
Members, you've heard the motion. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Gentleman's time is extended.
Thank you, Speaker Phelan.
Mr. Little, for what purpose?
This gentleman yield for
Will the
questions.
gentleman yield for questions?
Of course.
The gentleman yields.
Thank you, Speaker Phelan. The conversation got a little emotional. My questions are going to be a little more technical.
Sure.
Okay. So, Speaker Phelan, this morning I woke up and there was a meme on social media by the learned scholar Carnifex Maximus, and it has you in Soviet regalia, and it says you're harboring unauthorized memes. And obviously that wasn't you, right?
I hope not. No, sir.
Certainly not. So my understanding of your bill is that you are hoping to exclude or regulate memes like that if they are promulgated by a certain class of person. Isn't that what the bill does?
It is a narrower approach. Yes, sir. We're trying to stick within the boundaries of current law, and those who currently their speech is regulated because they fall in the category currently either through statute or rules that we regulate political advertising.
So you said earlier in your response to some of these questions that this isn't about us, but it seems to me that this is expressly about us. And the question of whether the members of this body should be subjected to ridicule, which aren't there really good reasons to ridicule the people in here?
100%. We sign up for this. I will say our families don't sign up for this. Our wives and children don't sign up for this, but we certainly enter this arena and we certainly sign up for it. I don't care about memes. I don't care if they're lame memes or funny memes. This has nothing to do with Twitter. This has to do with political advertising, which is a different threshold under statute and under TEC rule.
Well, Speaker Phelan, you said earlier that this isn't about the grassroots and it's not about memes, but I'm looking at Section A2 of your bill. And here's how I read this. Please correct me if you think I'm wrong. It says the section applies to a person who makes expenditures during a reporting period that in the aggregate exceed $100 for political advertising, other than an expense to cover the basic cost of hardware, messaging software, and bandwidth. And so a person in the grassroots could make expenditures in excess of $100 in a reporting period about something totally different than that meme, and they would be subjected to reporting under this section. Isn't that right?
Well, again, this mirrors current TEC rule under political advertising disclosures. That is current rule. Chapter 26.1, C2, subsection 2, is the exact same language. So if you spend over $100 in a reporting period in the aggregate that exceeds $100, for political advertising other than an expense to cover the basic cost of hardware, messaging software, and bandwidth, you have to put political ad paid for by on that messaging right now as we speak. So if they're not doing that now, they're not going to have to do the disclosure on AI.
I appreciate
or fake media.
I appreciate your response, Speaker Phelan, but that wasn't the question that I asked. My reading of this bill as a lawyer is that if I am a person who spends $100 or more during a reporting period for political advertising about anything, not about this meme, when I make a meme and I put it out, I've got to append a disclosure to it. I mean, isn't that right?
Well, I would think subsection B applies, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's right, isn't it?
But
That if I've spent $100 on political advertising anywhere about anyone during any reporting period, I now have to append this disclosure to any piece of satire that I put out into the world. Am I, as a lawyer, reading this correctly? I think that I am.
well, I would think that a person with the intent to influence an election knowingly caused to be published, and through 19 through page 2, line 5, that would apply.
Everyone, Speaker Phelan, who uses satire, political satire, is trying to influence an election, aren't they?
I would, no, sir, I would push back on that. I would say the memes that were published last night, this morning, are not trying to influence my election, whether I return in HD 21 or not.
How do you know? How do you know whether Carnifex Maximus wants you to be reelected or not?
There is, within TEC rules and the statutes about election for or against, that is not, making fun of someone, joking around about with the meme is not necessarily influence an election at all.
Well,
it could just be a joke, an
I to-
absolute joke.
I
Who
totally
cares?
agree, but my concern is if I have spent $100 or more, let's imagine I'm not in the House, if I have spent $100 or more in political advertising in any reporting period, I still have to make this disclosure, right?
You have to, according to the Texas Ethics Commission, again, their own rules, you have to put political ad paid for by on the bottom of a political advertising that is trying to influence an election if you spend more than $100 during any reporting period in the aggregate.
And the purpose, just to be clear,
That's the current rule. I'm just adding another disclosure that says if you're using fake media to influence the election and you're knowingly publishing that, then you have to add that disclosure.
well, you've used the term fake media. Fake media doesn't appear in your bill.
Altered media.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm channeling my inner Donald Trump. I'm just saying, altered media.
I understand, but any type of altered image is going to require this disclosure if you satisfy, or if you're one of the categories of A1 through 3, right?
Well, correct. I do have an amendment that I would like to add on third reading that would exempt some of the media that you may be concerned about.
I'm sorry that I didn't know about your amendment, but let me ask you a couple more questions about your bill.
Sure.
So, in your original House bill that you filed, it was broader, and what you did in your committee substitute was you took out any internet service provider, any publisher, any social media site, so they wouldn't have liability, right? You excluded them.
That was part of the testimony in some of the stakeholder meetings, sir. Yes, sir.
But you excluded the big companies. You excluded Facebook, Meta, Google, YouTube. You excluded all of them from liability. But anyone who spends $100 on political advertising in a reporting period, we're okay with them being liable, right?
Well, they're not required to add political disclosures with or without this bill.
Well, my concern is, well, in your original bill, they were going to be liable for publishing it, right? And then in your committee substitute, you took them out.
They were not expressly omitted.
So, Speaker Phelan, a narrower question. The purpose of this bill is to regulate a kind of speech, right?
The purpose of this bill is that our voters know exactly who they're voting for and whether or not an image they are seeing ever occurred in reality. Whereas a video of you shaking hands with Nancy Pelosi, your voters need to know you never met her, you never shook her hand. Images are very powerful. Quite often people don't even bother to read the verbiage or what's on paper or even what's on screen. The images are more powerful than the words.
Speaker Phelan, I agree they're very powerful. I had images that you paid for sent into my district of me between Joe Biden and Beto O'Rourke. And the question is, why is it okay for you to do it and it's not okay for the people out there to do it? What makes sense about that?
I don't know what was sent in your district. I just know what was sent in my district. And I know it was sent in other people's district. And it shouldn't be right. And again, this is the beginning, I think, of a new era in ethics where the voters need to know what is real and what is not. This AI technology gets better every single day. It gets more inexpensive, more reasonably every single day. It's going to become the norm. And quite frankly, my voters, again, if they can't tell that my opponent was endorsed by Donald Trump, which is a very valuable endorsement in our primary politics, when they don't even believe that, that's pretty eye-opening.
Speaker Phelan, it seems like you want a new era because you found out that when you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Well, I didn't die by the sword.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Harrison, for what
Will the
purpose?
gentleman yield?
Will the gentleman yield for questions?
Of course.
The gentleman yields.
You mentioned just a couple questions regarding that last exchange. You talked about AI, and AI is certainly advancing at an exponential rate. There are benefits and there are risks associated with that. But I want to clarify, because in the context of this bill, both yourself and the other proponents of this bill constantly reference AI, and your bill does reference AI, but the bill is not scoped exclusively to AI, right? As in it is much broader. You are not simply trying to regulate speech that is generated by AI. Is that correct?
There are other elements of the bill. I will say that, if you're too narrow on use the word AI, there could be something in the interim, maybe next year, that is called something different and is just as powerful, just as misleading.
I just want to get at that because it's really,
Gentleman's time has expired.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Harrison, for what purpose?
move to extend time, please.
This motion requires unanimous consent. There is objection. The gentleman's time is not extended. The following amendment, the clerk will read the...
Are you